Hello, Frugal Force. Once again, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, and I'm going to share an article from Bleeding Cool, or I should say a piece of crap from Bleeding Cool. It's "The World of Comics Has a Serious Problem. Trolls," posted by Joe Glass on August 6th of 2017, and this article is a big heaping load of crap. And so let's dig in and see the stupidity that has come from Bleeding Cool. "There's something rotten in the world of comics. It's something I've noticed for a very long time, sadly, but the last few weeks have seen it feel even worse." Yes, I'm going to repeat that. Has seen it feel even worse. This should clearly have editing that's Marvel worthy. Maybe even the last year, emboldened by the kind of discourse pervading our world now, even down to our politics and societal structures. That problem is, simply put, trolls. And of course, who are they going to blame? The fans, right? So let's look at it. No, not rebirths. Retcons or reboots are perpetual events. So I'm going to stop right there. Yes, it is. But rebirths? No. Actually, people tend to like DC Rebirth. It's been pretty good. Retcons, yeah. And, you change something after 10, 20 years and change something, people tend to have a little issue. Like all of a sudden, boom, you're gay. Surprise, even though you've been dating women forever. Yeah, readers might have a little hard time dealing with things like that are very jarring, and it's expected. It doesn't mean they're homophobe or anything. And constant reboots in order to generate sales because, yeah, the sales keep dipping in turd land. So, yeah, that is the problem. But, of course, no, the problem with comic books has become a frankly toxic element of discourse that has pervaded every section of comics, from fandom, commentary, to critical elements, and even the creators and publishers themselves. Even, maybe, just maybe, they're the main focus. Maybe they're the problem because they're the professionals. But I'm sorry, if somebody voices some discourse with your books and your response is don't buy it, suck it, or even if you don't contact the writers and things and share it on Twitter and you get Twitter stalked by an editor or writer and they complain about you, sure, yeah, that would be a bit of problem there. Maybe if somebody's saying, I'm just asking how I can do my videos better, like Diversity Comics, and then all of a sudden you have a writer sit there and go, oh, maybe shove a penis down your throat. Yeah, that's real professional. No, it's not the writer's problem. So let's continue. Note, I'm not going to name names here. This article isn't about playing the shame game, and I will not be calling any particular individual out, but I most certainly will be discussing the kind of harassment and offensive dialogue that has sprung up in the comics, or at the very least become far more visible through advent of social media. So I am going to say it right as it is. I'm going to call him out. Captain Frugal myself, absolutely. Douglas Stearns isn't afraid to speak his mind. I Love Comics does an excellent job. Nightwolf Gangs. Diversity in Comics has been gathering massive amounts of people because he's speaking his mind and he's not afraid to do it, as well as Captain Cumming is the man that will not only tell you how he feels, he will shove it in your face, and if you don't like it, too bad, and I give him all the props for it. Well, but yet you won't name a single one out because you know if you call them out, they're going to call you out on your crap and then throw a lot of proof in your face showing this article is a complete piece of dog poop. Anyway, I digress and I move on. After all, there's probably always been negative element. Yeah, there is in everything. Let's be honest, not all the readers are perfect either. The idea of gatekeepers to the comic community and fandom is hardly new. It's what led to all these offensive stereotypes in comic fans as fat, balding, middle-aged white men living in their mother's basements because it was happening. No, it was not. Is that some of the element? Yes, but believe it or not, there's been a lot of other fans. Good try. Comics felt inaccessible to minorities, women, and POC for years due to a perceived lack of their presence in the material. Once again, this person does not understand comics and probably has never read a comic in his life. I'm sorry, there's no diversity? Look way back into comic history. Look at the X-Men maybe. Storm. Look at Luke Cage. Marvel's had massive amounts of diversity. Massive amounts. You just don't want to admit it. Maybe they didn't have diverse writers writing all those books for many years, though, right? That might be a possibility. And trust me, the ones that are writing right now are diversity hires, and their books are terrible for the most part. So here, a threatening, unsafe feeling generated in comic spaces, whether through language used or the perceived glares of those admitted into that world. And I call 100% horse crap. I'm sorry, but comic books were very inclusive. These people actually felt like they were the outsiders for the most part until it started becoming mainstream and popular. And then the SJW crowd moved in and made it exclusive. So now if you don't like every little thing and want everybody to be gay or whatever it has to be at that moment, they hate you and need you to be stomped down. Now, once again, I have nothing against diverse characters, gay characters, or anything of that nature. I don't. Matter of fact, I think they make the world of Marvel Comics and others more interesting if they're written right. These characters don't need to be a one note. If they have depth, they're wonderful. I grew up with diverse characters, loving them. They didn't have to have the same skin color, gender, or look like me in any way or shape. And most of the fans, I have to break it to you, feel this way as well. You are nothing but a hypocrite full of crap without any facts. So anyway, the why of this, why would they be like this, is largely a simple psychological response. They are made to feel powerless in the world, and unfortunately a natural inclination for humans, a very base response, is to reclaim some of that power by passing along those feelings of powerlessness to someone they feel they can. And once again, when did you become a psychologist? Clearly, you don't know what you're talking about, and you have no research to prove any of this, such as individuals or groups new to the area or community, or who themselves are seeking a, here we are, safe space. Think about that for a second. This is basically the entire discourse of the wider social and political world at the moment, too. A behavior purposely manipulated on a larger scale outside of comics continuity. What we are seeing as comics is perhaps a microcosm of that, and I, once again, call bullcrap. As a matter of fact, comics has been one of the most inclusive and accept people, as they've been shunned throughout time until it became popular. It's amazing. If you don't believe me, maybe look at one of my most recent Google chats and look at the diversity of that group, and there was no issues at all. This is 100% created bull crap. But social media seems to have magnified things to a scale heretofore unseen, and is perhaps all the more horrifying to see because we are at a time when those women, POC, and minorities are at least being attempted to be brought into the comics community. Attempted. I have news for you. They've been there. Even they are getting sick of this crap. I mean, this is ridiculous. The partner of my website, thehenchmanslounge.com, is a 100% liberal. He will tell you that without a problem, and he is prideful of that, and he cannot stand Marvel Comics right now. Most can't. Look at your sales, Marvel. After all, social media has done many great things. It has made access to creators, publishers, and the fandom so much easier, and has played roles, no doubt, in helping some of these newer, more diverse voices from becoming beacons in the community, where it be at a creative level, critical level, or fandom level. Really? How come then the fandom level, anytime they have negativity, you call them trolls? Really? You want to go there? This article is such a piece of turd. However, it also has made it easier for those who dissent to change to find the target those they feel are ruining their comics. Notice he puts in there. No, that's not the problem. As I said, it's the quality of these books that suck. And people are bringing it out. Sales show it too. I'm sorry, it's not what you think it is. Because clearly you have no data. And certainly of late, we have seen female creators and editors and trans creators and editors face an insane amount of hate, irrational thinking, and vile speech, and yet the perpetrators have faced little to no reprimanding. I want to bring up this. It's the creators, the writers, that are not getting the reprimanding. Once again, look back at the mention I just did about a guy that was talking about reducing the amount of times he says like in a video to get responded by a comics writer, why don't you shove a penis down your throat, in different language I might add too as well. These writers are not innocent. Look it up. Just type in any writer and tweets. Look at Dan Slott. He's one of the worst offenders out there. These people are rude and terrible to their own fans, and yet this moron's trying to flip it around. This is especially true of Twitter, which continues to allow users to harass trans comics creators. A major part of this may be freedom of speech laws, especially in the U.S., which arguably have not yet caught up to modern technologies. By the way, I have a feeling I know exactly what this is about, and that trans creator was an attacker and aggressor and was anything but professional. In the majority of cases, while some of these things they are saying are so morally vile and objectionable, they have not broken any of the protections built into the Sanskrit laws of freedom of speech. They have not evicted violence or unsafe physical situations. Oh, but one of those trans ones just recently said they wanted to take a ball bat to one of the fans' teeth. You tell me. And the harassment from that editor, Heather Antos, wasn't really harassment either and couldn't produce any harassment. So even though you want to claim it's all great, they have not said anything that would be deemed obscene. They avoid swearing or crass imagery, though not always, and they do not say anything that could be construed as legally libelous or slanderous. Boy, I love your slimy way of trying to get out of things. In other words, you can't prove anything that they've done that was that bad. Now, granted, some fans have said some pretty harsh things. I'm not denying that. But a lot of these writers and editors have brought it on themselves by starting it. We didn't start the fire. Well, they did. From this standpoint, Twitter can stand behind a wall of they have the right to say these things no matter the moral implications or repercussions. They might try to argue that shutting them down is not possible, but we know this isn't true. So here is the nutcase part here that I've been always telling you. This is another SJW, and what do they want to do? They want you silenced. That's secretly what he wants, right? Because that isn't true. After all, any account that's perceived to have any remotely Nazi content or imagery is banned in Germany, where such things are illegal and would be seen as Twitter getting sued. So you want things like it is in Germany? Hello? Wake up, people. This is your SJW here. This is scary. In other words, I am all for freedom of speech as long as it's what I want. But while to some extent comics have always had this problem of toxic environments, let's not forget the old stereotype. Such examples were usually socially awkward themselves and would not express these views publicly. Of course, this is another element where technology came to play and changed things. You know what? I'd say the exact same thing about the writers. A lot of people, well, Dan Slott, you meet him face to face, he seems like a nice guy, but on Twitter, he's a dick. Well, I wonder why. Because if Dan Slott spoke like he did on Twitter to somebody, they would knock his teeth out, and he knows it. And I'm not threatening. I'm not saying I would do that to him. I'm saying if he talked like that to people, somebody would be knocking that dude out, as well as a lot of these other writers. They'd be backhanding him or whatever it would be. Anyway, because since the advent of the internet, not the best written sense, people could anonymously throw out their hatred and bile without fear. It emboldened such voices to frankly speak up loudly, and they sure as heck did so. I changed that a little bit. While it may forever be impossible to measure the size of this element of fandom, it can't be denied that this element is loud. And of course they are loud because they are sick of the crap from the writers and editors. See, by the way, Bleeding Cool, the site is so loaded with garbage, it has to reload for ads and all that stuff. So I love how they love to play, this is all innocent, but it is far, far, far from the truth. So this is just crap. With the advent of social media, has become a more difficult situation as this element had now access to make statements not just into the ether, but targeted as individuals and groups. They get to see themselves as digital gatekeepers protecting their community from the outsiders instead of welcoming new insights, new fans, and potentially new friends. And once again, you ask the comics crowd in general, they are perfectly fine with accepting new friends. We want more people. It is not exclusive to us. It's great to have more outsiders because we want comic books to be good. We want them to continue. That's part of the problem. They're passionate. They don't want to see Marvel crash and burn. They want Marvel to be successful. And they're actually fine with new characters as long as they're written well, not one-note Mary Sue garbage characters. This element continues to grow and get bolder too, and this is a large part not due to the laws of not catching up with new technology, but rather the publishers and creators themselves not catching up with an ever-changing audience and ever-changing time. No. These writers and things need some PR training and learn how to deal with it. If you look at in the past, there's been some disconnects and things, but people like Stan Lee would handle it well. These writers and things would say, sorry you didn't like this issue. Hey, maybe you'll like the next arc. We hope you do. Maybe check out this book instead. But instead, no, we get, hey, if you don't like it, don't buy it, or you can suck on this. Yeah, real professional writers. But yet it's the internet trolls. They forget the biggest trolls are probably the writers and editors themselves. For example, Dan Slott's notoriously blocking people left and right, but after he blocks them, he Twitter stalks them all the time. Think about that. The trolls of the internet probably feel safe in speaking their minds as they do, as the creators they idolize often do the same. At least a little bit of honesty there. There have been a number of creators who have publicly via social media made troll-like comments themselves, whether it been making fun of fans who are concerned with the direction of the story or shutting them down for expressing concerns from a different viewpoint, actually threatening critics or calling them idiots or liars because they have a distaste for the site that they work for, or others at that site, or merely didn't like a review or article they wrote, or expressing social political views that previously they would have kept them to themselves. The publishers have been few and far between in any kind reprimand against that action. That's pretty true. Yep. Of course, what they're partly saying is Marvel hates them because they know they print a lot of garbage articles, which is fair because this site does have mainly garbage. But it's true. They definitely fire back, and it's not seldom, I might add. While the ability social media, this is hard to read because it's written poorly, so pardon me there. While the ability social media gives fans to feel a greater connection to their favorite creators is one thing. That's the actual line, by the way. It also has allowed the trolls element to feel safe in their aggressive, threatening messages because they see people in places of authority within their community and get away with it too. Once again, they love it, twisting it's the trolls, it's not the writers. We're just going to touch the writers a little bit. No, they brought this themselves. And here is a double down on bullcrap. Comics then have come to accidentally nurture this environment, even when it has worked against them. Even when it leads to moments pushing back against a troll, such as Make Mine Milkshake, they simply move on to their next group they perceived as unprotected. Once again, Make Mine Milkshake was complete garbage. There was no harassment. She claimed she was harassed. There was 2 stinking tweets that were not real wonderful, but they were far from harassment. A guy saying he wants to bang you is not harassment. Okay? Lies. It was probably a Marvel marketing ploy. This may be the biggest problem facing comics now. If the trolls gatekeeping the community persist, it will continue to put off new people from wanting to join the community, even despite the best efforts of the creators and publishers. No, that's the 100% wrong thing there. It's the creators and publishers that are pushing potential writers away. Ask the very fans. You're writing comic books that are constantly slapping them in the face politically. Has Marvel been political in the past? Yes. As DC, yes, but it has never been as ham-fisted and hard and in your face as it is now. They've had a few poignant times here and there, but it has not been this consistent and this bad. And then you go and see these people on Twitter and things, and they're constantly doing it. But don't believe me? Check out Dan Slott's website and count how many anti-Donald Trump posts you see in one day. It will astound you. Or Nick Spencer, how there's no good Republicans. I'm sorry, but if you tell your fans you hate them, you're going to lose your fans. They're the biggest problem. We need to foster an environment where this kind of hatred, this kind of ownership, this kind of moral wasteland can no longer be permissible. Yeah, in other words, Marvel, step up, use some decent PR, put your people in line. That would save a lot of this. Fans are dying to come back. They want to come back. They can't wait for good comics to come back to read, but there hasn't been any. At least very few, and there's so much piles of crap on the shelves it's hard to get to them. And this really should be done from the top down. What needs to be found is a way of turning these examples of bad behavior into actual conversation. I agree with that. And I do not mean by the minorities or communities being affected. It is not the job of these groups to educate trolls. They're spending enough time dealing with the fallout and trying to live their lives. I like that. Educate trolls up. Educate the writers and editors. Whether as a community, we should not just rally towards showing support, but also towards sending change. Not just the opinions and hearts and minds, but the nature of the conversation away from the environment of explorative and recreationary poop flinging and towards mature, stable, reasoned conversation that is open to new viewpoints. You know what? I will say most of the time when I comment back to a writer or editor, when I ask them a perfectly logical, nice question, most of the time, they're ignored. I will say I got one recently from Tom Brevoort. More power to him. I asked him what would he do to help bridge the culture, and he actually mentioned getting off the internet in general would probably be one of the better things and back focused on work. And most of the time he gives a crap answer. Bravo to him on that one. But some of these other ones that I've sent messages to and things, they don't respond to those. They only pop up and say, shove a penis down your throat or something like that when they feel like it. Let me ask you, how is that bridging the community? It's not. The Ron Mars is pretty irrelevant, just like his sales anyway, so never mind with him. I'll move on. We have seen examples, again, on the wider stage of where this discourse of the world has moved away from healthy debate and education and towards this new paradigm of statements designed to send people into a rage, preventing all reasonable conversation. Yep. The reason for such discourse is clear, is it really? It's self-serving. I'm going to tell you it's clear. It's because, especially in Marvel, they've got an echo chamber. It's just a buddy group now. And all they care about is patting each other on the back, no matter how much sales are failing. When it basically tanks to the bottom, their answer is reboot. Start numbering again. We'll get a temporary surge. And that's going and getting diminishing returns every time. And the book is showing that. The diversity hires are not working. And it doesn't make me sexist saying that. Look at their credibility and what these people are. These are not qualified people for these jobs. This is just more back-patting and pandering. You get to hear your own voice and opinion, and then watch the rabble as those that's offended because of the way it was delivered vent and rage, and speaks to the primal element of those who agree with you. Well, that's how anything works. It is designed to eliminate reason in favor of the instant gratification of having your own thoughts validated. And I'm going to stop right there because they're hitting the YouTubers, myself included, right? But what they don't tell you is that's what the comics do. Right? They constantly speak to you, tell you how it has to be with anger towards one side and things like that. And as I said, most of them the fans don't mind politics as long as it's not as much or not constant one-sided. Think about that. They have thick skin. Marvel workers have very thin skin. They need thick skin. You say 100 good things about Dan Slott, and he will constantly brag your way. But you say one negative thing about one of his works, you're blocked, and you're now evil. But we cannot allow this to continue. We cannot allow the validation of attacking and hurting minorities, or indeed anyone. Yeah, good thing you added anyone, because this has not been an attack on minorities. That is a false bullcrap. This anti-Marvel thing right now is because the Marvel books in general suck. They don't care who the writer is, the gender, or anything, or their nature, or their background or history. All they care is if they're good books. If the book sucks, they say it sucks. Deal with it. That's the truth. We need the comics community to change, and it's all our responsibility to work on that. The comics community. No, we need the company to change. Do we have some people, bad seeds in the fan base? Absolutely. There's bad seeds in everything. If there was one or two bad seeds only in comics, people probably wouldn't care either. It's a toxic round table of people patting each other on the back, and if you don't like it, you are an evil troll. So Joe Glass, I look at your article, and it's a heaping pile of crap. Joe Glass has been contributing to Bleeding Cool for about 4 years of garbage. He's been a roaming reporter at shows like San Diego Comic-Con and New York City Comic-Con, and also the keen LGBT focus. Can you see a little biased in his article? With his occasional LGBTQ focused articles, Tales from the Four-Color Closet, he is now Bleeding Cool's senior mutant correspondent thanks to his obsession with Marvel's Merry Mutants. No, his LGBT obsession and vilifying the fans and twisting the truth. Joe is also a comics creator, writer of LGBT superhero team series, The Pride, in the first issue of which is one of the top 25 Comixology Summit titles of 2014, and has become exactly irrelevant and has really been much less irrelevant forever. He is also co-writer of Stiffs and a horror comedy series set in South Wales about call center workers who hunt the undead by night. One happens to be a monkey just because this guy sucks. I'm sorry, I have nothing against because what he is going for, but clearly he's slanted 100% and writes complete garbage article. Oh, the guy who went unhinged, Hateful rant against Howard Chaykin because he couldn't tell reality and fiction apart from writing an article about the danger of trolls? I must be biting into a cheesecake because of this, Rich. See, even the fans are, I'm sorry, even Bleeding Cool fans see the garbage here. 100%. Negative opinions aren't trolling. Okay? Most people don't get to write for a website, so they have to use Twitter. That's a good point, too. So they're sharing their feelings. Just pretty much about everybody thinks this is garbage. Okay, look at here. Gay man here. There's a difference between someone trolling to get attention on the internet and someone that's actually offensive. Sure, people are rude, but we can get over it. Your article is garbage. Your article has no facts. You are not a psychologist. It's like you are just a crap hack writer that wrote this piece of garbage, and you should be ashamed of yourself, and you don't even belong on Bleeding Cool's crappy site. Yes, I know I seem a little aggravated on this, but I am. I am absolutely sick of people blaming the fans just because they like something and they want a fraction of it to actually be good again. So, I do apologize for getting aggravated, Let me know your thoughts. Do you think this article is a steaming pile of crap like I do? If so, let me know in the comments. Or if I'm wrong, hey, I'm blatantly wrong, I'm unhinged here, let me know. So let me know your thoughts. Let me also know about your feelings about Bleeding Cool in general. Not just this article, but Bleeding Cool and this garbage pile. And if you don't mind, please be sure to help me out. Hit like and subscribe. And if you want, hit that bell, because otherwise you might not be hearing anything from me, because I know Twitter doesn't always disseminate everything. So make sure you join the Frugal Force and hit that bell. And if you want to help support the Frugal Force, you can go to my VidMe account, search for Captain Frugal. You can hit the subscribe there and subscribe for as little as $1 a month, or even just give me a one-time tip. Or if you can't support me financially, hey, hit me up with article ideas and things like that. Welcome to the Frugal Force. We'd love to have you, because we are inclusive, not exclusive.